Good morning, everybody. The Acolyte of the Skin has recently released, and as many of you probably want to do, you want to jump in and get a really cool Acolyte of the Skin build that you can play around with. However, I don't have one here for you today because I was playing Melee Warlock before this, and I wanted to kind of get the Melee Warlock build out as soon as I could before I started delving into the new stuff, kind of finish off the old before the new. So, here's what I got for you today. Melee Warlock Enlightened Spirit testing out the Imbue and the changes. For those of you that saw one of my most recent Warlock videos, I talked specifically about testing out the Imbue using the Eldritch Blast, doing my best to Eldritch Blast people as opposed to actually using the aura, and it didn't work as well as I wanted it to. The main reason it didn't work is because, well, Eldritch Blasting is cool, but as you get higher levels, which is where you get most of your Imbue dice, your character actually doesn't really want to be Eldritch Blasting that often. You'd much rather be just casting all of your spells, and you only spend about half of the time actually Eldritch Blasting. However, with the Enlightened Spirit, that's not the case. Your character is not only constantly attacking, but also the Eldritch Aura is constantly belting out that Imbue dice. And so, I wanted to make sure I took the best opportunity that I could to ensure that I tested out it fully and rigorously with the Melee Warlock. So, what did I find? Well, first, I found that this character was incredibly easy to level. I know I say that about a lot of different characters that I play, but this one especially. The aura is just great as it passively helps keep you alive and basically makes it so that under pretty much any normal circumstances, monsters are unable to kill you, as the aura is constantly giving you temporary hit points, physical resistance rating, magical resistance rating, and the like. On top of that, because it's very heavily area of effect oriented, this character is super easily able to just dispatch crowds of monsters. But that's where the two-weapon fighting comes in. Because this character is a two-weapon fighter, it also allows you to have reasonable single-target damage when you gotta take down one individual boss, where you basically use all your Eldritch Blast abilities in your AoE, but your single-target daggers for any dangerous monsters like a boss or a Reaper that might show up in front of your face. This kind of duality with the character is what allows it to be so successful while during the leveling process and even during the later game, with my character taking mostly abilities that focus on the single target damage, with the AoE coming along the way basically for free, as your character is able to use the Eldritch Burst and Spirit Blast to get the damage. Now you'll notice that this character is a Vistani knife fighter, and that's because Warlocks don't really get any melee abilities. They just don't. Sure, Enlightened Spirit gives you some Imbue dice that scales off of your spell power, but it works on your melee attacks. You don't get attack speed, you don't get hit chance, you don't get double strike. You don't get any of those things. And so Vistani Knife Fighter does a lot of heavy lifting to kind of fill in some of the gaps. So while this tree does primarily use the Enlightened Spirit tree, you do dip into Vistani, so you have the dagger abilities. I would definitely recommend playing this with Vistani, and that's the build I'm going to be including, is the Vistani version. But you actually need one more thing than just Vistani. You also need the Fade Arc Illusionist tree for Charisma to hit and damage, but then with those things, all you need is Constitution and Charisma. Constitution to stay alive, Charisma to make it so enemies cannot stay alive. As far as the pact goes, you can play a lot of different Warlock pacts. The one that I decided to go with that I think is probably the best is Celestial. You see, Celestial has the ability to cast Bless and Prayer, both of which are very, very strong spells. They give you increased hit chance as well as increased damage and some defenses along the way, like Prayer granting you extra saves. But it gets even better than that. This character kind of works double duty as a debuffer as well as a buffer. Now the reason why I say that is because not only do Enlightened Spirits get an ability called Aura of Menace that reduces all of the saving throws and hit chance of nearby monsters by 2, which is fairly good, but on top of that, they also get a second effect with the Prayer, where when you cast Prayer, it actually reduces enemy saving throws. So while my character didn't focus too heavily into spellcasting, or definitely not as much as you probably would if you wanted to be a full spellcaster, because I can reduce monster saving throws by 8 at the end game, that means I can save 8 on my DCs that I would otherwise need on my items. On top of that, the Eldritch Aura is this constantly pulsing AoE, so if you happen to watch any of my dinosaur bone crafting videos and you know about some of the cool effects like the ash or the dust or the ooze or the freeze, this character can easily propagate all of those effects in an AoE and just constantly buff or debuff every single monster that you come into contact with. This means that even if your character is not the most damaged, and by the way, you're not the most damaged, this is a spellcaster, right, in melee, so you're not an Eldritch Knight, you're not any type of barbarian, fighter, or rogue. No. Your character is still a warlock at the end of the day, and warlocks just don't do as much damage as a lot of the other characters. You provide a good amount of damage, reasonably good AoE as well, some crowd control, and incredible defense, as that constantly pulsing out Eldritch Aura is just very, very valuable for basically every single member of your team. You see, a lot of the different players that are in this game might have just, a little bit low hit points. They might not be absolutely ready to get into some of the content. And if your friends are taking a little bit of ticking damage over time, or maybe their stats are just a little bit lower, you can just sweep in and help them out with not only your defensive spells you can cast on them, but your Eldritch Aura that can beef them up. Overall, this character was a blast to play and super fun to level and do endgame with. I'm going to be leaving this character at endgame for quite a while, so if you are thinking about, is this character going to work well? I feel very good about it. I've already been raiding with it a bunch, bringing it into some Reaper raids, and it has been super fun, and so I will be just really looking forward to playing this. I mean, I always love playing Warlocks, so having a capped character that is a Warlock at the endgame is always a delight for me. But if you want to learn how to build your own, stay tuned to me with the build. So, Melee Warlock, you want to play one, but how exactly do you do that? Well, my solution was to be a pure Warlock, and I went with Drow Elf. Now, you don't necessarily have to go Drow Elf, I just am writing my guides for this specifically because they need a Charisma and a Dexterity, and if you're somebody who's just starting out and you want to play it for the first time, well, the cool thing is, you get Drow for free, and it gives you more stats than basically anything else. It's pretty awesome. So this character ends up having a reasonable amount of tank stats. I'm actually missing a very important piece of armor. I don't have my chest piece on this character. So because I am missing that, unfortunately, it will take me some time to actually get all my stats sorted out. Sorry, let me just take care of this here. It'll take me some time to actually get my last piece that I am missing, but that's okay. I will get that soon. However, this character, basically you want Charisma, you need enough Dexterity for 2-weapon fighting, and you need some Constitution for your health and your defense. You don't really need Strength for anything, you definitely don't need Wisdom, and Intelligence is like if you have nothing else to put your points into, but again, not really super important. As far as the skills go, you get a lot of skills. You only need Use Magic Device and Spellcraft, the rest of these don't matter. I did Intimidate and Jump so I didn't have to take the spell Jump, but you could just cast the spell, it's not a big deal. And Intimidate, because I wanted to intimidate monsters. But since you start as a Drow automatically get 2 skill points right away. So you can just take Spellcraft and use Magic Device, not put any points in Intelligence, and you're all set. Now the feats are fairly straightforward, especially with this character. So to get started, we've got the Combat Style feats, 2-weapon fighting, improved and greater 2-weapon fighting, because this character is in fact a 2-weapon fighter. Additionally, I also take some meta magic feats for my Eldritch Burst and Spirit Blast. So I have these like bursts that I can blast out, and I wanted to take Maximize for that one. I could have taken Empower, and maybe it would have been worth it to fit in, but right now I currently just use Quicken because I like casting spells faster. It's important to note that Quicken actually does not affect the Eldritch Burst and Spirit Blast that you get on this character, but it is what it is. Moving on past that, we've also got... what am I looking for? The Improved Critical feat under Martial. So I grabbed Improved Critical Piercing Weapons. It's very good for this character because we are in fact using daggers. You technically don't need to play this character using daggers, although I would highly recommend it using Destinies. But this character absolutely requires the enhancement tree Fade Arc Illusionist for critical hit and damage. Without that, it's going to be very, very difficult to play this character. So I would definitely recommend having Fade Arc Illusionist and ideally Destinies Knife Fighter before you attempt to take on this challenge. Now, as far as the epic feats go for Epic Destiny stuff, a lot of the epic feats are pretty straightforward. You take the Warlock, Eldritch Blast, and Packed Dice feats, because those are really good. You also want to grab Perfect 2-weapon fighting, because you're a 2-weapon fighter, and as well as Wellspring to Power. This character does use the extended Wellspring, which is really nice, and a lot of extra damage. But this character is lawful, and the reason I went lawful is because I wasn't sure if I was going to be using Divine Crusader or not. I think you can think to yourself, okay, you could use Divine Crusader for embodiment of law, but also, this character is packed. As a Warlock, I decided to take the, Celestial Pact. And Celestial Pact actually can't be chaotic, so you kind of have to be lawful if you want to play the character like this. Now, the Celestial Pact gives you a couple important spells. Specifically, you get access to Prayer and Bless. Both of these spells combined give you plus 12 to hit, which is really nice. Holy Aura is a huge amount of defense. Freedom of Movement, fantastic if you don't happen to have an item, which this character does not. Currently have it into its item build. And Magic Circle against Evil. Again, another just very, very good ability. One last thing I want to touch on is this ability here, Arcane Warrior. So Arcane Warrior makes it so every time you attack a monster, you get spell power, and every time you cast a spell, you get melee power. This aura you see going around me, every time this goes off, I get 1 melee power, and this stacks up to 20 times. So thanks to this aura, you are pretty much always going to be in max stacks of Arcane Warrior, so this is one of the best feats of the game for this character, so you do want to take it. Now, as far as spells go, I pretty much just picked up defensive and buff spells, as well as, I think I grabbed Evard's Black Tentacles as offensive, and Trap the Soul and Hold Monster. I just use Hold Monster. I actually have never cast Trap the Soul in this character, so you don't really need to do that. And Protection from Elements Mass is just nice. I don't know why I took Circle of Death. Couldn't tell you. I don't cast it. This character does not do as much spell casting as you like. It is a Enlightened Spirit character, so you're mostly just going to be using the aura damage here. Important note, if you do not have Racial Completionist, because this character does, you'll notice I have spent 97 points, you just don't take the Drow Tree. Just completely drain the Drow Tree, don't spend any points in here. Instead, Enlightened Spirit, Tainted Scholar, Vistani Knife Fighter, and Fade Arc Illusionist. So, how did I level this character? You're going to follow this. A lot of the stuff is pretty straightforward. This is the aura stuff you want. This is damage. This is some defense, that sort of thing. The way I did this is right away, level 1, I got this ability here, Illusory Weaponry. I got 3 points into Fade Arc Illusionist, and I got my Shadow Blades. Then, after that, I pretty much just spent the rest of my points in Enlightened Spirit. I did pretty early on grab Underdark Blast, so I didn't need to scale Force spell power at all. So probably by like level 8, I had Underdark Blast here, but I only had like this point, this point, this point, and this point. So that's 7 points. I didn't take this until the end. Then I completely filled out Enlightened Spirit. Once Enlightened Spirit was completely and fully done, then I completely and fully filled out Vistani Knife Fighter on my way up, and I actually didn't start using daggers until level 20. So when I got to level 20, that's when I finished off Familiar's Flourish, I had my Vistani Knife Fighter tree, and I had my Enlightened Spirit tree. Again, I still have 1 more point, so you will not be able to follow this exactly if you have no racial or universal points. If you have no universal point, you have to take this point out here, Strong Pact, and just put 1 point into something anywhere you want that sounds cool. But so again, for order, grab the weapon here, then put a bunch of points in Enlightened Spirit, grab Eldritch Burst, then go to Tainted Scholar, grab Underdark Blast, then fill out Enlightened Spirit, then fill out Vistani, and then finish off with Fade Arc Illusionist. If you have daggers you want to swap to sooner, once you're done with Enlightened Spirit, then get Charisma Hit and Damage, and then fill out Vistani, because then you'll have that a little bit sooner. But yeah, I had 0 points in the Vistani tree until like level 14, so you don't need this at all. Although the attack speed is kind of nice to have. Oh, if you're wondering what I get from Drow, it's Charisma, as well as +1 enchantment DCs, some 2-weapon fighting stuff, and most importantly, +2 Imbue dice, which is very, very cool. Again, Racial Completionist exclusive. I would not recommend draining any points out of any of these trees for these things. This is auxiliary, and on top, it is not better than anything else in these trees. So don't put points in the Drow tree if you don't have racial points. And then we have the Epic Destinies. Now this character, when it comes to Epic Destinies, I wasn't exactly sure which way to go, so this is kind of where I landed on, but you may have a differing opinion from me. First, Primal Avatar, you really want to make sure you're grabbing the Shared Mantle here. I really like the Shared Mantle. I like the bonus to Imbue dice. I think it's super powerful, and you really can't go wrong here because it gives you extra damage. And then on top of that, you've also got Mantle of the Nature Sky. Now, previously, when I've talked about Warlock, I've said that this is not a very good effect because the Mantle, unfortunately, does not apply to any of your Eldritch Blasts. Even though I do have Celestial, which applies lightning damage, that does not work for this Eldritch Blast. However, this works on melee attacks, so I just melee people, and it works with all of my spell power, which is fantastic. So this does a tremendously high amount of damage, and I love it. Then we got Draconic Incarnation. I basically wanted the Dragon Breath, and I wanted to go with Vortex, because I thought Vortex would be cool, as well as pull from the Wellspring. Now, you don't necessarily need all these things. You'll notice I have 69 points, which is 9 more than the standard cap of 60. If you got to pull 9 points out of somewhere, you pull it out of Draconic Incarnation. You basically drop down to the 3 points here in Arcane Spellsword for the Imbue die, as well as Daunting Roar, and then you take out the Evocation DCs and all this stuff and some other stuff down here, and you basically only end up spending 15 points in this tree if you only have 60. And then Legendary Dreadnought is just damage and attacks. You grab the extra action boost, you grab the double strike and double shot, you pick up the extra armor class and maximum dex bonus with armor, so you can have a reasonably high amount of dodge, and all the good stuff out of here. Now you might be wondering specifically why I'm using this attack and not something else. Why are we talking about this? Like, what's going on? So number 1, Dragon Breath is just too good. Your character has a good amount of spell power. You can just rush in and use it. I have no tactics DCs, so Dire Charge is terrible for me. And Primal Avatar, I would like to take maybe like Carrion Storm or Shard Storm, but you spend a lot of time casting spells as opposed to just attacking, which is what you want to do. So Blue Dragon Breath is 15-second cooldown, do a big attack, and then something else goes on. With Vortex, I get the ability to target a monster, cast the spell, it deals damage to them, and then I have this AoE going, which is very, very cool. Important note with Vortex, it only deals damage if you have a target. If you do not have a target when you cast it, it does nothing. Now, this ability, why is this essential? 25% chance to paralyze on a Dragon Breath. Well, fun fact and bug time. See my feet? See this aura that goes out? This counts as a Dragon Breath. I do not know why, and it has been bugged like this for a very long time. As a result, every single time this goes off, there's a 25% chance to paralyze basically everything nearby, with no save. It's hilarious, and it works in R10, and it will save your life constantly. It works on everything, too. It's not just like, this isn't like a paralysis effect that, only works on some things. This works on golems, or not golems, reapers, elementals. Anything that's vulnerable to fear can be paralyzed, and it is hilarious. You can paralyze oozes with this nonsense. Doesn't even make sense. So, yeah, very good ability, and would generally recommend. Now, the itemization for this character, it's pretty expensive, not going to lie. This is one of the better sets that I've come up with here, but it uses a lot of items. We got 5-piece Isle of Dread Curse using the crafted Dinosaur Bone Bracer, a Signet of the Sea ring, 2 attuned bone daggers that are crafted, and Osfield's lightning boots that come from the raid. These boots are unbelievably rare and are very hard to come by, but they grant sound and silence, which gives me sonic damage when I attack people or cast spells, as well as a bunch of powerful stats that I actually need, like lightning and sonic crit, which is nice. Signet of the Sea just gives me all the spell powers I need for my primal mantle, as well as being Reaper Ring enchantment, because I got rare, so I wanted to use this anyway. I have the Dinosaur Bone Bracer here, which I just have a bunch of stuff crafted in it. I put Constitution here because I already have Charisma in other places, as well as the Dread Island's Curse there. And then my 2 daggers. The 2 daggers, I basically have Ooze in one of them and Ash in the other one for the extra magic resistance rating reduction and a little bit of physical resistance rating reduction. Important note, this is not the standard Ooze. This is the Raid Ooze aspect of Tar that summons these little oozes all the time. You might have seen that at the beginning of the video. And it's very, very powerful because this goes off constantly, because every time you attack or hit with any of your spells and all of your aura blast kind of spells, it has a chance to summon an ooze. So it's very, very common. Then we grab the Hammer Fist, because I need something for all of these stats, so it's great. The Signet of Da'anvi for Radiance and Radiance lore. There's actually no other way to get light spell power that I can figure out. It also happens to have Resistance and Shield bonus to armor class, which is a stacking bonus to armor class. So my character right now has 177 armor class. When I dump in, I think it's the Holy Aura, I go up to 182, which is pretty good so far. Not a bad amount of armor class to have, for sure. So I'm pretty happy about that. Then we got the Die Rare Belt, just because it gives Insightful Sheltering and 18 armor class, which is good, plus the dodge on here. So again, my armor class is pretty high. Monsters don't hit me very often. And then the set is the Walking Ancestors set. Unfortunately, I don't have the chest piece. I need to get it from the raid. And the point is actually to use the raid for to finish it off, getting the medium armor and then putting in the augments that I would want on it, which I believe I have here. I do. So I've got the Gold Fang for sneak attack damage on hit, Void Skill for exceptional spell critical, Sacred DCs, and light spell crit damage, as well as the Echo of the Walking Ancestors to give me the full set bonus. It's one piece that I'm missing, but I need to run the raid more, and I'm ransacked at the moment. Then I use the Legendary Gem of Many Facets, which I can craft and put any stats I want in it, like Fortification, Armor Piercing, and Insightful Accuracy, and I have it with the Windlashes Frosty set. It took me 15 rerolls to get, and now with this, and then combined with the Legendary Wolf Whistle, this item is useless. It does nothing for my character. It has no purpose. I mean, I guess I can click it and summon a werewolf, but that's literally all I can do with this. It has no stats. However, it doesn't matter, because the Artifact, Double Strike, and Melee Range Power is too good to pass up. And then finally, the Eternal Flame Guard's Lenses. This item is crazy. I don't even know why they added this to the game. I mean, I do know why they added it. They were going to add something slightly different, and then people were like, no, give us everything stacked into one spot. And then SSG was like, okay, sounds good. And so they give you Deadly, Quality, Deadly, Double Strike, Quality, Double Strike, and it's one of the best melee items in the game. As far as the filigree set goes, this character is running a few different sets. One, I use the 5-piece Keeper of the Curse. I don't know if this is the right way to go about it, but the pack dice seemed like it would be pretty good. I could probably do better than this, but it's just what I had on hand, and so I like that. I'm also running a bunch of double filigrees, so the double Charisma filigrees, Hell and Back, Embraced by Light, as well as Sanctified Fervor and Reverberation, giving me Imbue Dice, Healing Amplification, Physical Resistance Rating, Healing Amp, actually even more Healing Amp, and also the 4 Charisma, because I have them in here as well. Then this character is also running the double +2 Constitution Snakebite set, which gives me 4 Constitution, as well as 1 Constitution Snakebite here, for +2 Imbue Dice, as well as that extra Physical Resistance Rating. And then finally, I run double Snow Peaks Gifts Imbue dice. This stacks now. It didn't used to. It didn't used to stack with like the augments from the Hunter Be Hunted raid. Now it does. So I get bonus Imbue dice from this, as well as Imbue dice from the one in my Bracer. So I have both of them, which is pretty cool. I don't know if this is the best setup for filigrees. I'm definitely eyeballing that Keeper of the Curse, thinking I could probably do better than that. But, you know, it is what it is, and that's what we've got rolling. But anyways, this is the character. I will put together like a bit of like an introductory gear set. So if you want to get to something, there's going to be two builds. There's going to be the free-to-play build that has like the basic gear set to get started. And then there's going to be this build, which has this gear set. So if depending on where you want to go, you can kind of search around and find the gear set that works for you. But that's being said, that's all I got. So thank you for watching. Hope you had a fantastic time. If you like what you saw, follow, share, and subscribe. Or if you don't, this werewolf is going to come get you. And you don't want the werewolf to get you. Subscribe to that channel, like that channel, tell your friends about the channel. Just go to the ice cream social. Be like, hey guys, check it out. I watched this cool video. It was awesome. It was about like 2-weapon fighter warlock. It was so cool. And your friends are gonna be like, 2-weapon fighter warlock? What's that? And you'd be like, oh no, I said this is video game Dungeons and Dragons Online. You don't play it, I know, but anyway, it's about this. So he uses the Eldritch Blast. It's really sick because he gets the aura from Enlightened Spirit and it causes it to be an AoE every 2 seconds. But then with the ooze augment, it's summoning oozes, and your friends are sitting there being like, yeah, okay, dude. Sounds good. And you're like, no, but you don't listen. You get charisma hit and damage from the Feydark Illusionist tree, and it's actually amazing. So you get charisma hit and damage, you get the aura, it's doing constant damage, you get the debuffs. Like, seriously, there's pretty much no better way to get better than that. Also, consider the fact that this character gets to make use of two different universal enhancement trees, 3 epic destinies, but the 3 epic destinies are 2 combo spellcaster melee with the melee hybrid and the legendary dread.